The performance space. Charlotte basically didn't stop talking as we headed down to the second floor. She was describing the play they had put on last year, which was Oliver. She played Oliver even though she's a girl. As she said this, she pushed open the double floor to a huge auditorium. At the other end of the room was a stage. Charlotte started skipping toward the stage. Julian ran after her, and then turned around halfway down the aisle. "Come on," he said loudly, waving for me to follow him, which I did. "There were like hundreds of people in the audience that night," said Charlotte, and it took me a second to realize that she's still talking about Oliver. I was so nervous. I had so many lines, and I had all these songs to sing. I was so hard. Although she was talking to me, she really didn't look at me much. On opening night, my parents were all the way in back of the auditorium, like where Jack is right now. But when the lights are off, you can't really see that far back. So I was like, "Where are my parents? Where are my parents?" And then Mr. Braxnick, our theater arts teacher last year, he said, "Charlotte, stop being such a diva." And I was like, "Okay." And then I supported my parents and I was totally fine. I didn't forget a single line. While she was talking, I noticed Julian staring at me out of the corner of his eye. This is something I see people do a lot with me. They think I don't know they're staring, but I can tell from the way their heads are tilted. I turned around to see where Jack had gone to. He had stayed in the back of the auditorium like he was bored. "We put on a play every year," said Charlotte. "I don't think he's going to want to be in the school play, Charlotte," said Julian sarcastically. "You can be in the play without actually being in the play," Charlotte answered, looking at me. "You can do the lighting. You can paint the backdrops." "Oh yeah, whoopee," said Julian, twirling his finger in the air. "But you don't have to take the theater arts elective if you don't want to," Charlotte said, shrugging. "There's a dance and chorus and band. There's leadership." "Only dogs take leadership," Julian interrupted. "Julian, you're being so obnoxious," said Charlotte, which made Julian laugh. "I'm taking the science elective," I said. "Cool," said Charlotte. Julian looked directly at me. "The science elective is supposedly the hardest elective of all," he said. "No offense, but if you've never ever been in a school before, why do you think you're suddenly going to be smart enough to take the science elective? I mean, have you ever even studied science before? Like real science, not like the kind you do in kids?" "Yeah," I nodded. "You were homeschooled, Julian," said Charlotte. "So teachers came to his house?" said Julian, looking puzzled. "No, his mother taught him," answered Charlotte. "Is she a teacher?" Julian said. "Is the mother a teacher?" Charlotte asked me. "No," I said. "So she's not a real teacher," said Julian, as if that proved his point. "That's what I mean. How can someone who's not a real teacher actually teach science?" "I'm sure you'll do fine," said Charlotte, looking at me. "Let's just go to the library now," Jack called out, sounding really bored. "Why is your hair so long?" Julian said to me. He sounded like he was annoyed. I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged. "Can I ask you a question?" he said. I shrugged again. Didn't he just ask me a question? "What's the deal with your face? I mean, were you in a fire or something?" "Julian, that's so rude," said Charlotte. "I'm not being rude," said Julian. "I'm just asking questions. Mr. Tushman said we could ask questions if we wanted to." "Not rude questions like that," said Charlotte. "Besides, he was born like that. That's what Mr. Tushman said. You just weren't listening. I was so listening, said Julian. I just thought maybe he was in a fire too. Gee, Julian, said Jack. Just shut up. You shut up, Julian yelled. Come on, August, said Jack. Let's just go to the library already. I walked toward Jack and followed him out of the auditorium. He held the double doors open for me, and as I passed by, he looked at me right in the face, kind of daring me to look back at him, which I did. Then I actually smiled. I don't know. Sometimes when I have the feeling like I'm almost crying, it can turn into an almost laughing feeling. And that must have been the feeling I was having then. Because I smiled, almost like I was going to giggle. The thing is, because of the way my face is, people who don't know me very well don't always get that I'm smiling. My mouth doesn't go up at the corners the way other people's mouths do. It just goes straight across my face. But somehow, Jack Wood got that I had smiled at him, and he smiled back. Julian's a joke, he whispered before Julian and Charlotte reached earth. But dude, you're gonna have to talk. He had said this seriously, like he was trying to help me. I nodded as Julian and Charlotte caught up to earth. We were all quiet for a second, all of us just kind of nodding, looking at the floor. Then I looked up at Julian. The words supposedly, by the way, I said. What are you talking about? You said supposedly before. I said, I did not. Yeah, you did. Charlotte nodded. You said the science elective is supposedly really hard. I heard you. I absolutely did not. He insisted. Whatever, Jack said. Let's just go. Yeah, let's just go, agreed Charlotte, following Jack down the stairs to the next floor. I started to follow her, but Julian cut right in front of me, which actually made me stumble backward. Oops, sorry about that, said Julian, but I could tell from the way he looked at me that he wasn't really sorry at all.
The deal. Mom and Mr. Tushman were talking when we got back to the office. Mrs. Garcia was the first to see us come back, and she started smiling her shiny smile as we walked in. So August, what do you think? Did you like what you saw? She asked. Yeah, I nodded, looking over at Mom. Jack, Julian, and Charlotte were standing by the door, not sure where to go or if they were still needed. I wondered what else they'd been told about me before they met me. Did you see the baby chick? Mom asked me. As I shook my head, Julian said, Are you talking about the baby chicks in science? Those get donated to a farm at the end of every school year. Oh, said Mom, disappointed. But they hatch new ones every year in science, said Julian added. So August will be able to see them again in the spring. Oh good, said Mom, eyeing me. They were so cute, August. I wish she wouldn't talk to me like I was a baby in front of other people. So August, said Mr. Tushman, did these guys show you around enough, or do you want to see more? I realized I forgot to ask them to show you the gym. We did anyway, Mr. Tushman, said Julian. Excellent, said Mr. Tushman. And I told him about school play and some of the electives, said Charlotte. Oh no, she said suddenly. We forgot to show him the art room. That's okay, said Mr. Tushman. But we can show it to him now, Charlotte offered. Don't we have to pick Via up soon? I said to Mom. That was a signal for my telling Mom if I really wanted to leave. Oh, you're right, said Mom, getting up. I could tell she was pretending to check the time on her watch. I'm sorry, everybody. I lost track of the time. We have to go pick up my daughter at her new school. She's taking an unofficial tour today. This part wasn't a lie, that Via was checking out her new school today. The part that was a lie was that we were picking her up at the school, which we weren't. She was coming home with Dad later. Where does she go to school? Asked Mr. Tushman, getting up. She's starting Faulkner High School this fall. Wow, that's not an easy school to get into. Good for her. Thank you, said Mom, nodding. It'll be a bit of a schlep, though. The age chain down to 86, then the crosstown backs all the way to the east side. Takes an hour that way, but it's just a 15-minute drive. It'll be worth it. I know a couple of kids who got into Faulkner and love it, said Mr. Tushman. We should really go, Mom, I said, tugging at a pocketbook. We said goodbye kind of quickly after that. I think Mr. Tushman was a little surprised that we were leaving so suddenly. And then I wondered if he would blame Jack and Charlotte, even though it was really only Julian who made me feel kind of bad. Everyone was really nice. I made sure to tell Mr. Tushman before we left. I look forward to having you as a student, said Mr. Tushman, patting my back. Bye, I said to Jack, Charlotte, and Julian, but I didn't look at them or look up at all until I left the building.
My child name is home. As soon as we had walked at least half a block from the school, Mom said, so how would it go? Did you like it? Not yet, Mom. When we get home, I said, the moment we got inside the house, I ran to my room and threw myself onto my bed. I could tell Mom didn't know what was up, and I really didn't either. I felt very sad and a tiny bit happy at the exact same time. Kind of like that, laughing, crying, feeling all over again. My dog Daisy followed me into the room, jumped on the bed, and started licking me all over my face. Who is good girlie? I said in my dead voice. Who is good girlie? Is everything okay with this? Mom said she wanted to sit down beside me, but Daisy was hogging the bed. Excuse me, Daisy. She sat down, nursing Daisy over. Were those kids not lying to you, Ozzy? Oh no, I said, only half lying. They were okay. But were they nice? Mr. Tushman went out of his way to tell me what sweet kids they are. I nodded, but I kept looking at Daisy, kissing her on the nose and rubbing her hair until her back leg did that little flea scratch. That boy Julian seemed especially nice, Mom said. Oh no, he was a little nice. I like Jack, though he was nice. I thought his name was Jack Will, but it's just Jack. Wait, maybe I am getting them confused. Which one was the one with the dark hair that was brushed for what? Julian. And he wasn't nice. No, not nice. Oh, she thought about this for a second. Okay, so he is the kind of kid who is one way in front of grown up and another way in front of kids. Yeah, I guess. Head though, she answered, nodding. He was nice, so obvious. What is the deal with your face? I said, looking at Daisy the whole time. Were you in a fight or something? Mom didn't say anything. When I looked up at her, I could tell she was completely shocked. He didn't say it in a mean way, I said quickly. He was just asking. Mom nodded. But I really like Jack. I said he was nice. Shut up, Julian. And Charlotte was like, you are so real, Julian. Mom nodded again. She pressed her finger on her forehead like she was pushing against a headache. I am so sorry, Ozzy, she said quietly. Her cheeks were bright red. No, it is okay, Mom, really. You don't have to go to school if you don't want, sweetie. I want to, I said, Ozzy. Really, Mom, I want to, and I wasn't lying.
First day jitters. Okay, so I admit that the first day of school I was so nervous that the butterflies in my stomach were more like pigeons flying around my insides. Mom and Dad were probably a little nervous too, but they acted all excited for me, taking pictures of me and Via before we left the house, since it was Via's first day of school too. Up until a few days before, we still weren't sure I would be going to school at all. After my tour of the school, Mom and Dad had reversed sides on whether I should go or not. Mom was now the one saying I shouldn't go, and Dad was saying I should. Dad had told me he was really proud of how I'd handled myself with Julian, and that I was turning into quite a strong man. And I heard him tell Mom that he now thought she had been right all along. But Mom, I could tell, wasn't so sure anymore. When Dad told her that he and Via wanted to walk me to school today too, since it was on the way to the subway station, Mom seemed relieved that we would all be going together. And I guess I was too. Even though Beecher Prep is just a few blocks from our house, I've only been on that block a couple of times before. In general, I try to avoid blocks where there are lots of kids roaming around. On our block, everybody knows me and I know everybody. I know every brick and every tree trunk and every crack in the sidewalk. I know Mrs. Grimaldi, the lady who is always sitting by her window, and the old guy who walks up and down the street whistling like a bird. I know the deli on the corner, where Mom gets our bagels, and the waitresses at the coffee shop, who all call me honey and give me lollipops whenever they see me. I love my neighborhood of North River Heights, which is why it was so strange to be walking down these blocks feeling like it was all new to me suddenly. Amesfort Avenue, a street I've been down a million times, looked totally different for some reason. Full of people I never saw before, waiting for buses, pushing strollers. We crossed Amesfort and turned up Heights Place. Via walked next to me like she usually does, and Mom and Dad were behind us. As soon as we turned the corner, we saw all the kids in front of the school, hundreds of them talking to each other in little groups, laughing or standing with their parents who were talking with other parents. I kept my head way down. "Everyone's just as nervous as you are," said Via in my ear. "Just remember that this is everyone's first day of school too, okay?" Mr. Tushman was greeting students and parents in front of the school entrance. I have to admit, so far nothing bad had happened. I didn't catch anyone staring or even noticing me. Only once did I look up to see some girls looking my way and whispering with their hands cupped over their mouths, but they looked away when they saw me notice them. We reached the front entrance. "Okay, so this is it, big boy," said Dad, putting his hands on top of my shoulders. "Have a great first day. I love you," said Via, giving me a big kiss and a hug. "You too," I said. "I love you, Aki," said Dad, hugging me. "Bye." Then Mom hugged me, but I could tell she was about to cry, which would have totally embarrassed me. So I just gave her a fast, hard hug, turned, and disappeared into the school.
Locked, I went straight to room 301 on the third floor. Now I was glad I would gone on that little tour, because I knew exactly where to go and didn't have to look up once. I noticed that some kids were definitely staring at me now. I did my thing of pretending not to notice. I went inside the classroom and the teacher was writing on the chalkboard while all the kids started sitting at the different desks. The desks were in a half circle facing the chalkboard, so I chose the desk in the middle toward the back, which I thought would make it harder for anyone to stare at me. I still kept my head way down, just looking up enough from under my bangs to see everyone's feet. As the desk started to fill up, I did notice that no one sat down next to me a couple of times. Someone was about to sit next to me, then changed his or her mind at the last minute and sat down somewhere else. "Hey, August," it was Charlotte giving me her little wave as she sat down at a desk in the front of the class. Why anyone would ever choose to sit way up front in a class, I don't know. "Hey," I said, nodding hello. Then I noticed Julian was sitting a few seats away from her. talking to some other kids, and I know he saw me, but he didn't say hello. Suddenly, someone was sitting down next to me. It was Jack. Well, Jack, what's up? He said, nodding at me. Hey, Jack, I answered, waving my hand, which I immediately wished I hadn't done because it felt kind of uncool. Okay, hey, okay, kids, okay, everybody, settle down, said the teacher, now facing us. She had written her name, Miss Peterson, on the chalkboard. Everyone, find a seat, please. Come in. She said to a couple of kids who had just walked in the room. There's a seat there and right here. She hadn't noticed me yet. Now the first thing I want everyone to do is stop talking, and she noticed me. Put your backpacks down and quiet down. She had only hesitated for a millionth of a second, but I could tell the moment she saw me, like I said, I'm used to it by now. I'm going to take attendance and do the sitting chart. She continued, sitting on the edge of her desk. Next to her were 3 neat rows of accordion folders. When I call your name, come up and I will hand you a folder with your name on it. It contains your class schedule and your combination log, which you should not try to open until I tell you to. Your locker number is written on the class schedule before warned that some lockers are not right outside this class but down the hall, and before anyone even thinks of asking, no, you can't switch lockers and you can switch locks. Then if there is time at the end of this period, we are going to get to know each other, like each other a little better, okay? Okay. She picked up the clipboard on her desk and started reading the names out long. Okay, so Julian Albans, she said, looking up. Julian raised his hand and said here at the same time. Hi, Julian, she said, making a note on her sitting chart. She picked up the very first folder and held it out toward him. Come pick it up, she said, kind of no nonsense. He got up and took it from her. She handed a folder to each kid as she read up the names. As she went down the list, I noticed that the seat next to me was the only one still empty, even though there were 2 kids sitting at one desk just a few seats away. When she called the name of one of them, a big kid named Henry Joplin, who already looked like a teenager, she said, Henry, there's an empty desk right over there. Why don't you take that seat, okay? She handed him his folder and pointed to the desk next to mine. Although I didn't look at him directly, I could tell Henry did not want to move next to me just by the way he dragged his backpack on the floor as he came over, like he was moving in slow motion. Then he flopped his backpack up really high on the right side of the desk, so it was kind of like a wall between his desk and mine. Maya Markowitz, Miss Pesoda was saying, here, said a girl but 4 desks down from me. Miss Norrie, here, said the kid that had been sitting with Henry Joplin. As he walked back to his desk, I saw him shoot Henry a poor you look. August, poor man, said Miss Peterson. Here, I said quietly, raising my hand a bit. Hi, August. she said, smiling at me very nicely when I went up to get my folder. I kind of felt everyone's eye burning into my back for a few seconds. I stood in the front of the class and everyone looked down when I walked back to my desk. I resisted spinning the combination when I sat down, even though everyone else was doing it because she had specifically told us not to. I was already pretty good at opening locks anyway, because I had used them on my bike. Henry kept trying to open his lock but couldn't do it. He was getting frustrated and kind of cursing under his breath. Miss Peterson called out the next few names. The last name was Jackville. After she handed Jack his folders, he said, "Okay, so everyone write your combinations down somewhere safe that you won't forget, okay? But if you do forget, which happens at least 3.2 times per semester, Miss Garcia has a list of all the combination numbers. Now go ahead, take your logs out of your folders and spend a couple of minutes practicing how to open them. Though I know some of you went ahead and did that anyway." She was looking at Henry when she said that, and in the meanwhile, I will tell you guys a little something about myself. And then you guys can tell me a little about yourselves and we will get to know each other. Sound good? She smiled at everyone, though I felt like she was smiling at me the most. It wasn't a shiny smile like Miss Garcia's smile, but a normal smile like she meant it. She looked very different from what I thought teachers were going to look like. I guess I thought she would look like Miss Foe from Jimmy Neutron, and an old lady with a big bun on top of her head, but in fact she looked exactly like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 4, haircut kind of like a boy's, and a big white skirt kind of like a tunic. She turned around and started writing on the chalkboard. Henry still couldn't get his lock to open. He was getting more and more frustrated every time someone else popped one open. He got really annoyed when I was able to open mine on the first try. The funny thing is, if he hadn't put the backpack between us, I most definitely would have offered to have him.
Chapter 15. Around the Room. Miss Petosa told us a little about who she was. It was boring stuff about where she originally came from and how she always wanted to teach, and she left a job on Wall Street about 6 years ago to pursue her dream and teach kids. She ended by asking if anyone had any questions, and Julian raised his hand. Yes. She had to look at the list to remember his name. Julian. That's cool about how you're pursuing your dream, he said. Thank you. You're welcome, he smiled proudly. Okay, so why don't you tell us a little about yourself, Julian? Actually, here's what I want everyone to do. Think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. Actually, wait a minute. How many of you came from the Beecher Lower School? About half of the kids raised their hands. Okay, so a few of you already know each other. But the rest of you, I guess, are new to the school, right? Okay, so everyone think of 2 things you want other people to know about you. And if you know some of other kids, try to think of things they don't already know about you. Okay? Okay, so let's start with Julian and we go around the room. Julian scrunched up his face and started tapping his forehead. like he was thinking really hard. Okay, whenever you're ready, Miss Peterson said. Okay, so number one is that do me a favor and start with your names, okay? Miss Peterson interrupted. It'll help me remember everyone. Oh, okay. So, my name is Julian, and the number one thing I'd like to tell everyone about myself is that I just got background mistake for my Wii, and it's totally awesome. And the number two thing is that we got a ping pong table this summer. Very nice, I love ping pong, said Miss Peterson. Does anyone have any question for Julian? Is battleground mistake multiplayer or one player? Said the kid named Miles. Not those kinds of questions, guys, said Miss Peterson. Okay, so how about you? She pointed to Charlotte, probably because her desk was closest to the front. Oh, sure. Charlotte didn't hesitate for even a second, like she knew exactly what she wanted to say. My name is Charlotte. I have two sisters, and we just got a new puppy named Suki. You lie. We got her from an animal shelter, and she's so cute. That's great, Charlotte. Thank you, said Miss Patterson. Okay, then, who's next?
Lamb to the slaughter, like a lamb to the slaughter. Something that you say about someone who goes somewhere calmly, not knowing that something unpleasant is going to happen to them. I googled it last night. That's what I was thinking when Miss Peterson called my name, and suddenly it was my turn to talk. My name is August, I said, and yeah, I kind of mumbled it. What? Said someone. Can you speak up, honey? Said Miss Peterson. My name is August, I said louder, forcing myself to look up. I have a sister named Việt and a dog named Daisy, and that's it. Wonderful, said Miss Peterson. Anyone have questions for August? No one said anything. Okay, you are next, said Miss Peterson to Jack. Wait, I have a question for August, said Julian, raising his hand. Why do you have that tiny bird in the back of your hair? Is that like Padawan thing? Yeah, I sure nodded. What a Padawan thing, said Miss Peterson, smiling at me. It's from Star Wars, answered Julian. A Padawan is a Jedi apprentice. Oh, interesting, answered Miss Peterson. Look at me. So you are into Star Wars, August? I guess I'm not. Not looking up because what I really want was to just lie under the desk. Who's your favorite character? Julian asked. I started thinking maybe he wasn't so bad. Jacob Fit. What about that Jitters? He said. Did you like him? Okay, guys. We can talk about Star Wars stuff at recess, said Miss Peterson cheerfully. But let's keep going. We haven't heard from you yet, she said to Jack. Now it was Jack's turn to talk, but I admit I didn't hear a word he said. Maybe no one got that serious thing, and maybe Julian didn't mean anything at all. But in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Darth Sidious get burned by Sith lightning and become totally deformed. His skin get all shriveled up and his whole face just kind of melt. I picked up Julian and he was looking at me. Yeah, you know what he was saying.
Truth guide. There was a lot of shuffling around when the bell rang and everybody got up to leave. I checked my schedule and it said my next class was English, room 321. I didn't stop to see if anyone else from my homeroom was going my way. I just zoomed out of the class and down the hall and sat down as far from the front as possible. The teacher, a really tall man with a yellow beard, who was writing on the chalkboard. Kids came in laughing and talking in little groups, but I didn't look up. Basically, the same thing that happened in homeroom happened again. No one said it to me, except for Jack, who was joking around with some kids who wasn't in our homeroom. I could tell Jack was the kind of kid all the kids liked. He had a lot of fans. He made people laugh. When the second bell rang, everyone got quiet and the teacher turned around and faced us. He said his name was Mr. Brown, and then he started talking about what he would be doing this semester. At a certain point, somewhere between a wrinkle in time and shade of the sea, he nodded me, but kept on talking. I was mostly doodling in my notebook when he talked, but every once in a while, I would take a look at the other students. Charlotte was in the class, so was Julian and Henry. Myers wasn't. Mr. Brown had written on the chalkboard in big block letters, P-R-E-C-E-B-T. Okay, everybody, write it down at the very top of very front page in your English notebook. As we did what he told us to do, he said, "Okay, so who can tell me what a precept is?" Did anyone know? No one raised their hands. Mr. Brown smiled, nodded, and turned around to write on the chalkboard again. Precepts equal rules about really important things. Like a model, someone called out. Like a model, said Mr. Brown, nodding as he continued writing on the board. Like a famous quote. Like a line from a fortune cookie. Any saying or ground rule that can motivate you. Basically, a precept is anything that helps guide us when making decisions about really important things. He wrote all that on the chalkboard and then turned around and faced us. "So, what are some really important things?" he asked us. A few kids raised their hands, and as he pointed at them, they gave their answers, which he wrote on the chalkboard in very sloppy handwriting. Rules, schoolwork, homework, what else? He said as he wrote, not even turning around, "Just call things out." He wrote everything everyone called out. Family, parents, pets. One of them called out, "The environment." The environment, he wrote on the chalkboard and added, "Our word." "Sharks, because they eat dead things in the ocean," said one of the boys, a kid named Reed, and Mr. Brown wrote down, "Sharks." "Bees, seat belts, recycling, fans." "Okay," said Mr. Brown, writing all those things down. He turned around when he finished writing to face it again, but no one's named the most important thing of all. We all looked at him, our ideas. "God," said one kid, and I could tell that even though Mr. Brown wrote God down, that wasn't the answer he was looking for. Without saying anything else, he wrote down, "Who we are." "Who we are," he said, underlining each word as he said it. "Who we are. Us, right? What kind of people are we? What kind of person are you? Isn't that the most important thing of all? Isn't that the kind of question we should be asking ourselves all the time? What kind of person am I?" Did anyone happen to notice the plaque next to the door of this school? Anyone read what it says? Anyone? He looked around, but no one knew the answer. "It says, 'Know thyself,'" he said, smiling and nodding. "And learning who you are is what you're here to do." "I thought we're here to learn English," Jack corrected, which made everyone laugh. "Oh yeah, and that too." Very cool of him. He turned around and wrote in a big, huge block letters and spread all the white cards from the chalkboard. Mr. Brown's September precept. When given the choice between being right or being guide, choose guide. "Okay, so everybody," he said, facing us again, "I want you to start a brand new section in your notebooks and call it Mr. Brown's Precepts." He kept talking as we did what he was telling us to do. Put today's date at the top of the very first page, and from now on, at the beginning of every month, I'm going to write a new Mr. Brown precept on the chalkboard, and you're going to write it down in your notebook. Then we're going to discuss that precept and what it means. And at the end of the month, you're going to write an essay about it, about what it means to you. So by the end of the year, you all have your own list of precepts to take away with you. Over the summer, I asked all my students to come up with their very own personal precept, write it down on a postcard, and mail it to me from wherever you go on your summer vacation. People will do that, said one girl whose name I didn't know. Oh yeah, he answered. People will do that. I've had students send me new precepts year after they've graduated from this school. Actually, it's pretty amazing. He paused and stroked his beard. But anyway, next summer seemed like a long way off. I know, he joked, which made us laugh. So everybody relax a bit while I take attendance, and then when we finish with that, I start telling you about all the fun stuff we're going to be doing this year in English. He pointed to Jack when he said this, which was so funny. We all laughed at that. As I wrote down Mr. Brown's September precept, I suddenly realized that I was going to like school no matter what.
Lunch. Vera had grilled me about the lunch in the middle school, so I guess I should have known it could be hard. But I just hadn't expected it to be this hard. Basically, all the kids from the 5th grade classes piled into the cafeteria at the same time, talking loudly and pumping into one another while they ran to different tables. One of the lunchroom teachers said something about no seat saving allowed, but I didn't know what she meant, and maybe no one else did either, because just about everybody was saving seats for their friend. I tried to sit down at one table, but the kid in the next tray said, "Oh, sorry, but somebody else is sitting here." So I moved to an empty table and just wait for everyone to finish stampeding and the lunchroom teacher to tell us what to do the next. As she started telling us the cafeteria rules, I looked around to see where Jack was sitting, but I didn't see him on my side of the room. Kids were still coming in as the teacher started calling the first few tables to get their tray and stand on line at the counter. Julian, Henry, and Mike were sitting at the table towards the back of the room. Mom had packed me a cheese sandwich, a graham cracker, and a juice box, so I didn't need to stand on line when my table was cold. Instead, I just concentrated on opening my backpack, pulling out my lunch bag, and slowly opening the aluminum foil wrapping up my sandwich. I could tell I was being startled without even looking up. I knew that people were nudging each other, watching me out of the corner of their eyes. I thought I was used to those kind of stare by now, but I guess I wasn't. There was one table of girls that I knew were whispering about me, because they were talking behind their hand. Their eye and whisper keep bunching about me. I hate the way I eat. I know how gross it looked. I had a surgery to fit my clay palate when I was a baby, and then a second clay surgery when I was 4. But I still have a hole in the roof of my mouth, and even though I had jaw alignment surgery a few years ago, I have to chew food in the front of my mouth. I didn't even realize how this looked until I was at a birthday party once, and one of the kids told the mom of the birthday boy he didn't want to sit next to me. Well, because I was too messy with all the food crumbs shooting out of my mouth. I know the kid wasn't trying to be mean, but he got a big trouble later. And his mom called my mom that night to apologize. When I got home from the party, I went to the bedroom mirror and started eating a saltine cracker to see what I looked like when I was chewing. The kids were right. I eat like a tortoise. If you have been seen a tortoise eating, like some prehistoric swamp thing. The summer table. Hey, is this seat taken? I looked up, and the girl I never saw before was standing across from my table with a lunch tray full of food. She had a long wavy brown hair and wore a brown t-shirt with a purple piece sign on it. No, I said. She put her lunch tray on the table, plopped her backpack on the floor, and sat down across from me. She started to eat the mac and cheese on her plate. She said after swallowing the first bite, I should have brought a sandwich like you did. Yeah, I said, nodding. My name is Summer, by the way. What is yours? August. Cool, she said. Summer, another girl, came from the table carrying a tray. Why are you sitting here? Come track to the table. It was too crowded. Summer answered her. Come sit here, there is more room. The other girl looked confused for a second. I realized she had been one of the girls I had caught looking at me just a few minutes earlier. Handcuffed over her mouth, whispering. Yeah, I guess Summer has been one of the girls at that table. Too. Never mind, said the girl leaving. Summer looked at me, strong smiles, and took another bite of her mac and cheese. Hey, our name kinda much, she said as she chewed. I guess she could tell I didn't know what she meant. Summer? August? She said, smiling. Her eye opened wide as she waited for me to get it. Oh, yeah, I said after a second. We can make this the summer only, a lunch table, she said. Only kid with summer name can sit here. Let's see, is there anyone named June or July? There is a major, I said. Technically, May is spring. Summer answered, but if she wants to sit here, she could make an exception. She said it as if she actually thought the whole thing through. There's Julian. That's like the name Julia, which comes from July. Yeah, I didn't say anything. There's a kid named Red in my English class. I said, yeah, I know Red. But how is Red a summer name? She asked. I don't know, I'm shocked. I just picture like a read up class being a summer thing. Yeah, it's okay, she nodded, pulling out her notebook. And Mr. Petosa could sit here too. The sky sound like the word petrol, which I think as a summer thing too. I had her from homeroom, I said. I have her for math, she answered, making a face. She started writing a list of names on the second to last page of her notebook. So, who else? She said. By the end of the lunch, we had come up with a whole list of names of kids and teachers who could sit at our table if they want. Most of the names wasn't actually summer names, but they were names that had some kind of connection to summer. I even found a way to making Jack Will's name work by pointing out that you could turn his name into a sentence about summer, like a Jack we'll go to the beach. With summer agreed word fine. But if someone doesn't have a summer name and want to see it with us, she said very seriously, we will still let them if they are nice. It's okay? It's okay. I know it. Even if it's a winter name, Cool Ben, she answered, giving me a thumb up. Summer looked like her name. She had a tan, and her eyes were green like a leaf.